America, the blessed, respected ancestral lands where dong-smoking nomadic tribes freely roam about, living humble lives of peaceful coexistence alongside the wise bison and the green plains. Until a few hundred years ago, until July 4th, 1976. That's right, I'm talking about the US I'm talking about this beautiful goddamn flag, which has 50 stars representing the 50 states, which today I'm going to be tier listing. I did another video where I tier listed all of the eastern United States, but that don't even fucking matter, bruh. Don't even think about that, because today we're going to be focusing in on the glorious South. You know, the guys that lost the war, and the Wild West, the shining beacon of manifest destiny, the furthest grasp of westward expansion. Wow, it's just so beautiful. There's going to be one more video in this series where I finish up the rankings by rating the non-mainland states, Hawaii and Alaska. But importantly, in that video, I'm going to be reshuffling the tier list a little bit based off my general evaluation and mainly the comments. So please, let me know if you have any hot takes or any vital information you think I should know regarding the ratings at the end of this video. I will read through all the comments to make sure I have the most accurate analysis possible. Anyway, enough waffling, or should I say pancaking, because the first state we got up is the colossal Texas, the biggest mainland state, the state with the second highest population, the state which is so goddamn big their whole ass motto is everything's bigger in Texas. And that's definitely true. The trucks, the guns, the flags, the roads, the malls, the meal portions, and therefore the people. Yeah, Texas is fat as fuck. 34.8% of Texans are obese. Surveys have found the average Texan can't run 1/5 of a mile. That's insane. But in general, this is going to be a reoccurring theme with the South. Honestly though, I can't really blame them. Less than 5% of Texans use public transport. To make up for that, they got some of the most insane highways in the country. Specifically, they have the world's widest highway, apparently. Wow, I'm just in awe, man. 0% fucking tax. You don't need a license to carry a gun. You can just murk someone who steps 1 inch into your property. Syrup on bacon. Oh my god, man, it's too much for my soy European mind to comprehend. A funny thing about Texas though is they have their own California. It's called Austin. This is the city where pretty much every Californian who left in a great 2020 Cali exodus moved to. Famously, Joe Rogan. The concentration of ice baths in Austin is crazy. Texas is slowly becoming the ice bath / podcast capital of the world. Like 500,000 Californians have moved to Texas in the last 5 years. That's more people than a lot of major European cities. Again, my mind cannot compute these numbers, bro. The reaction of the OG hillbilly Texans to the new gen Texans moving in is pretty hilarious, to the point where there's a considerable support for the Texan succession movement known as Texit, so that they can protect their own borders from Californians. Oh my god, bro. Yo, you guys don't remember how this went last time? Overall, Texas is so fascinating. It's so insane for me. A man who's never left the European continent. It's so insanely quintessentially American that I actually think a lot of the things we view in Europe as stereotypical American stuff is actually just Texan stuff. And you gotta remember, once upon a time, Texas literally stretched all the way to Wyoming. Everything's bigger in Texas, even history. S tier. I have to go. I have to visit. I feel like brisket would change my life and transform me into a God-fearing, arms-bearing American, probably. On to Texas's smelly, damp, freaky, but charming neighbor, Louisiana.
They had a dude in our town, no arms, used to fucking fight everybody. They had a summer in our neighborhood where somebody stole the top of everybody's car, and they ended up busting the person. They were trying to make a boat. There's been 4 cold days in the history of Louisiana, so to have a hot tub is just, it's all, you're basically making soup out of whoever you invite to sit in it. That's when I got involved in this damn cult. What the fuck?
Louisiana is actually insane, man. They literally exist separately from the rest of America in their own little corner. They got their own Creole French culture, the music, the fucking partying, the food. Even their accents sound like they're constantly chewing on gumbo. But once again, truly a fascinating place to me. And New Orleans is absolutely stunning. Maybe because it was built by French people, not Americans. I heard some of the craziest stories about Mardi Gras. I think the crunkness levels of Louisiana has to be admired. So despite the fact that the state is being swallowed up by the ocean as we speak, and despite the fact that the state is inhabited by the freakiest swamp creatures since Shrek, they're still getting a C because they also make my favorite hot sauce. I drink this shit like it's water, man. Oh, man, Arkansas is literally just Louisiana, but with none of the appeal of Louisiana. The only thing they got on Louisiana is the fact that they aren't sinking away into the sea. They got none of the crazy, unique culture. They are just left with Louisiana's poverty, violence, and inbredness. Plus, they ain't got one city with a population over 200k. Ah, hell no. The only thing they are famous for is being the home of that anti-colonial Filipino militia. Seems random. I don't know. It's weird. Let me know if I'm missing something here, but goddamn Arkansas, man. They literally got a city named Gooberville. It's gonna have to be F tier, man. I'm sorry. On to Mississippi, the state which gives me a brain aneurysm every time I try and spell its name. The state which is home to the USA's most important waterway, and they decided to pollute the fucking shit out of it. I remember watching a video where David Cho sailed down the Mississippi River in an inflatable dinghy, and I thought it was the most disgusting thing I ever seen in my life. And if I remember correctly, falling overboard meant essentially instant death. Anyway, we're in a real deep south here, which means the 3 M's: moonshine, meth, and marriage to your cousin, all of which are on clear display in this state. They got more vibes than Arkansas, less vibes than Louisiana, and Mississippians are goddamn big. It's the fattest state in America. They can get a E for now. Alabama, my Birmingham brothers, the only other people in the world who understand the struggle.
I just woke up in a fucking steaming mood, yeah, because I live in a shithole. Do you know what I mean? Birmingham is a fucking shithole. I hate the fucking place.
But honestly, this might be the only time ever that I'm thankful I live in my city, because Birmingham, Alabama is so fucked up, it's crazy. In 2024, it's the most dangerous city in America. I think Alabama has the potential to be a much better state if Florida didn't steal its whole ass coastline. Like, damn, bro, they really did a Croatia on these guys. That's fucked up. Although, I don't know, maybe they'd rather not contain Panama City Beach. I wouldn't blame them. The only thing that Alabama is known online for is the whole marrying your cousin thing. And look, frankly, I think that's just unfair, man. To give this state some real credit, they're actually known for marrying their siblings as well. E tier. Now, Tennessee is a different story. These guys have such a long, skinny state that they pretty much contain every single American biome possible. Anything from roasting deserts to snow-capped frozen highlands. This state really has it all. Even historical, groundbreaking artifacts. That's right, the biggest pyramid in the world outside of Egypt is in Memphis, and it's a fishing shop. Tennessee has some of my favorite city names in America: Chattanooga, Nutbush, Nankippoo, Yum Yum, and my personal favorite, Regret. Damn. Yeah, I feel that one. Obviously, Nashville is super famous for country music and fried chicken. Two things this state does phenomenally. This state has such an important musical influence over the world. I mean, where would the annoying ass brain-rotted Russian producers be without funk music? Originally invented in Memphis, actually, by talented humans like Young Dolph. Obviously, the most famous Tennessee musician was Elvis, who, despite, you know, being up to some questionable things and eventually passing away from shitting too hard, he put Tennessee on the map. And I think he was onto something, because this state is pretty goated in my opinion. And if you want to gain 200 pounds in a decade, just like Elvis did, this state is for you. A tier. Next up, Kentucky, known for KFC and that's about it. I know it isn't, but I think Kentucky should be counted as part of the Midwest, because deja vu alert, we're talking a lot of goddamn corn, and it gets way too damn cold here in the winter for them to be classed as the South. I think when Europeans hear the word Kentucky, they just assume it's like down here in the deep South. But bro, it borders fucking Illinois and Ohio. It is not the South. Kentucky is seriously mid, man. I couldn't find one standard standout positive or one standout negative about this state. Honestly, they should have just stayed as part of Virginia and just formed one massive mid-state. Honestly, I don't even like KFC, man. It's way too soggy. I want my chicken crispy or spicy. And if this kind of mid-soggy stuff is what Kentucky are proud of creating, they're getting a D. Right, last state in the East. Once again, it's kind of questionable whether this one is in the South or the Midwest, but we got West Virginia. Man, this state is so fucked up that I kind of had to rate it above an F. It's almost impressive how fucked up this state is. It consistently peaks in the kind of list you don't really want to peak in. Ever since us humans stopped using coal and coal became a bit more scarce, this state's industry has been cooked. They've had a Detroit level decline, just it happened twice as long ago and they still haven't recovered. Yeah, despite being pretty close to the economically goated East Coast, West Virginia just fucking benefited nothing. Imagine if all the shitty parts of Ohio made up one entire state. You got West Virginia, which really just feels like the outcast bits of all the surrounding states, bits that those states didn't want to claim because the hillbillies are too hard to control. Yeah, this state is one of the most rural, therefore the hillbillies out there are literally out of fucking control. Bro, moonshine is legal. It's like the tweaker hot pot of this side of the US, and drug-related crime is so high in this state simply because they just don't have police. It's vigilante land, which in my opinion, you know, that is true freedom. That's the beacon of humanity they have to go to eat. Just because I don't have the heart to stick them in F. I think they deserve better as humans. Alright, jumping over into the West. We got Oklahoma, the big pan. I'm not gonna lie, it's another fucked state. It wasn't even created until 1907. Bro, in terms of world history, that was like yesterday. That was like a couple hours ago. That was like fucking lunchtime, bro. Essentially, Oklahoma exists because Americans needed a bit of unwanted, shitty, ugly, dangerous land to lock up natives and force them into horrible poverty using alcohol, gambling, and inadequate rations. If you look at Oklahoma on Google Maps, you can see all these reservations, prison camps. That's essentially because all the land that the USA promised the natives that they could have was taken from them because of gold, crops, money, freedom. They basically forcibly marched these 5 big native tribes into Oklahoma, known as the Trail of Tears. And honestly, I would cry too if I was forced to move to Oklahoma. The reason the US government gave this land to natives was because it's essentially the worst fucking land in the world ever, and the government knew they would never ever want to settle such trash ends. The land is completely unarable. The communities there are so poor and violent, and also I forgot to mention there's the nice little threat of being completely obliterated by the air. Oklahoma's one of the absolute worst states for tornadoes, and I personally would never ever risk my life to live somewhere as ass as Oklahoma. So you know, it adds up that a lot of Oklahomans had no choice. They had to live there. I mean, at least Nebraskans and Kansasans, yeah, they had to deal with tornadoes, but at least they got corn. Oklahoma don't even got corn, bro. What the fuck do they have apart from bad weather and misery? Well, I guess the only talked about thing about Oklahoma is the panhandle of nothingness. Yeah, there's literally nothing here. It just came into existence from everyone arguing whether slavery was cool or not. So honestly, Oklahoma can get an F. Alright, bordering Oklahoma, we got New Mexico. The one thing New Mexico has going for it is Breaking Bad. And who would have thought? It turns out the series was actually a very precise depiction of the state. Yeah, they really adore crystal meth out there. On one hand, they got some truly pretty amazing historical sites and some very pretty cities too. But then there's also Albuquerque. Not only do they have crime, violence, addiction, poverty, also you can't even visit Walt's house without being abused. Bro, that's their only attraction. What do you mean? Look, I'm not gonna give them an F because
Walter, put your breath away, Walter. I'm not having sex.
And also, as people keep saying, my entire drip is Jesse Pinkman, but they can get a serious hardline E. On the other hand, Arizona, home to some of the world's greatest wonders, so many national forests, so many preserved bits of nature, and most famously, the Grand Canyon, arguably America's most famous landmark. And what can I say, man? It's colossal, it's awe-inspiring, it's gorgeous. The Grand Canyon is truly captivating. So much that, you know, about 11 people a year, they get a bit too interested in it. I mean, talking about putting yourself at risk, I had no idea how many people were watching over me, maliciously harvesting my personal information. Arizona. After Googling and researching about it, I suddenly got ads to visit the Grand Canyon. This means hella people potentially having access to my online activity. That's scary. I want my 5 a.m. search history to be known by me and me only. Basically, I signed up to this tool called Incogni yesterday. I was not expecting to see 32 companies, people with my personal information. I hate it so much when I get spammed. I'd be looking at my phone thinking it's some important big money business update. No, it's just mega Nigerian billion cashnow.com trying to sell me another set of Toyota sliders, bruh. I don't want some brother in Lagos to be flexing like 7 necklaces just because he got a hold of my information and sold it on. You can fix this before you've unknowingly bought our Nigerian bro a G-Wagon. With Incogni, all they need is your most basic information, and voila, they reach out to the data brokers and remove your private data from the market. I'm the kind of guy that will take 20 packets of sugar from Costa to save money. I'm a cheapskate, and I am telling you, this is a good, cheap deal. You literally get the majority of the price discounted away if you go to incogni.com/geopod and use code geopod to get an exclusive offer of 60% off. Your privacy is priceless, so why not drop a tiny discounted buck on it? And you're also supporting me as a creator at the same time. That's incogni.com/geopod and use code geopod, or click the link below. Thanks Incogni for sponsoring this video. And that rural, beautiful side of Arizona is definitely what Arizonans would want me to focus on when tier listing this state. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to talk about Phoenix. Yeah, don't get fooled by the glamorous sounding name. This city is low-key hell on earth. And that's not really directed at the people of Phoenix. It's more about the fucking heat.
Why would it be that hot at night anyway? What city is that? Is that a desert? Is that hell, nigga?
Phoenix is so dystopian, bruh. It's the world's 8th hottest city. That's hotter than like every African city, bruh. Did Americans even slightly take this into account when building Phoenix up in 1950? Of course they did. Not. Of course they fucking didn't, man. Asphalt mega highways that essentially act as gigantic frying pans. The lack of any greenery, making the valley an impenetrable stove of hot, thick pollution. The fact everyone has aircon, coolers, fridges, ice machines, sprinklers, etc. on means so much extra generated waste heat. This place is literally just an invisible furnace with people living in it who are slowly cooking themselves alive. And I mean literally, compared to the rest of the US, you're 40% more likely to get skin cancer in Phoenix. Heat this high doubles the chance of you having a heart attack, and thousands of people die from just straight up sunstroke or dehydration in this state every year. And this can make it pretty damn impossible to go outside in Phoenix and a lot of the rest of the state. So if you drop yourself on Google Maps anywhere in southern Arizona, there's like a 1% chance you'll see a pedestrian. It literally looks like there was a zombie apocalypse or something. It feels completely empty. That being said, I do think this state is pretty cool, definitely not literally, and their state flag is one of the rare amazing state flags, so for that I gotta give them a high C at least. Nevada, probably the only true remaining Wild West state. Casinos, brothels, fighting, drugs, tax breaks, nuclear weapons, non-nuclear weapons. You can truly find it all in Nevada. I already got a whole video about Las Vegas because my European brain finds this ultra-capitalist mecca for American degenerates frankly mind-blowing. This supermassive, relentless, violently bright advertising orb is just the cherry on the top of the cake. Nevada also joins Tennessee in the Great American Pyramid Crusade. This time, the obelisk is obviously a casino. Nevada does have other cities like Reno, Carson City, Winnemucca, Fatty Martin Lake, where there is, in fact, no lake. All these Nevadan cities were built up as kind of a midpoint for pioneers crossing the plains and the Rocky Mountains in search of gold. However, these towns are what distracted a lot of guys from actually coming back home with any gold. Because chances are, if you're a lone geezer who spent 6 months walking through butt of nowhere, eating dried potatoes and grass and shit, if you happen to stop off in Winnemucca after the most back-breaking ordeal of your life, you might have a slight persuasion for the type of things people sell there. Beer, whiskey, ladies, gambling, cigarettes, other stuff I can't say on YouTube. You might indulge a little bit, you know? Next thing you know, you're stuck sending all the leftover scraps of gold you find to Mr. McCarson's saloon to pay off the hefty bar tab you stacked up, because God forbid you get on the bad side of Mr. McCarson and his gang of vigilante cowboys. It's exactly the same today. Nevada runs in almost the exact same setup. I can't think of anywhere else like it. Yes, every bone in my body tells me it's an awful, degenerate hellhole, but Nevada is really fascinating. It's also very, very, very American. Probably like the purest, most raw example of the USA. So honestly, it can get a B. Now, Utah, that means Mormons. An entire fucking state built by cult members. I'm joking. No disrespect to my Mormon brothers and sisters. What you guys did with that piece of shit land is crazy. They actually built Wakanda on ground that essentially has the same agricultural properties as cigarette ash. And it really was not cool that you guys got persecuted for years just for having your own swag. And you guys basically showed the rest of America that it was possible to expand westwards at a large scale. They were really the OG manifestors, but I find it a little hard to believe that my boy Joseph found them golden plates in the funny named hill. I think he just wanted more wives in his life, bro. The thing about Utah, despite it being historically extremely unique and interesting, despite Salt Lake being such an insane feat of human engineering, despite it having some phenomenal nature, it's just a little bit boring. Mormons are just well-behaved people, man. The absolute polar opposite of their Nevadan neighbors who profit a little bit off naughty Mormons nipping over the border. There's actually this town that borders Utah and Nevada called Wendover, and the contrast is so funny, man. On the Utah side, we got a church, a cafe, a museum, a park, a little inn, a school, a dentist. On the Nevada side, by less than a meter, we got 2 goddamn mega casinos with an indoor bridge in between them, 1 strip club, a weed dispensary, 2 nightclubs, more casinos, an Arby and a casino in 1, 3 liquor stalls, a Mickey D's, a concert hall, about 6 gas stations, a golf course, and that is why Nevada is beating Utah. Literally the only interesting thing that happened in the last 50 years of Utah's history is this British dude drove a toy mini Jeep all the way through it. Utah getting a high D. Colorado, probably the best state flag, possibly the best scenery in America, possibly the best strategic location in the US, hence all those doomsday bunkers exclusively for the elites within the hills of Colorado. They got crazy history, the natives, the pioneers, the gold rush. All of that means that nowadays there's just as many ghost towns as there are inhabited towns in this state. You can actually buy entire ghost towns in rural Colorado for about as much as you can get a house in Denver for. If you decide to move or visit though, be prepared for altitude sickness. Yeah, containing 75% of the USA's land above 10,000 feet, Colorado is home to some of the highest Americans. And that statement had absolutely nothing to do with the physical height of the state. No, it was the first state to legalize it. Personally, I think that's cool. Probably makes this state an absolute gold mine for budding crisps salesmen like me. I got big plans. I'm telling you, once I introduce Pickle Onion Monster Munch in bulk into Colorado, my net worth is skyrocketing. And as true stoners, this state lays claim to one of the most proud, integral American masterpieces, the cheeseburger. Between this and Joey Diaz's Colorado stories, which I definitely can't play on this platform, I'm thinking very high score for this state. I'm saying A with potential to move up even further. Wyoming, the state with the lowest population of humans. Instead, they got elk. Despite having only 500,000 people, this state receives around 8 million tourists every year. That means for every one Wyomingan, there's 16 tourists. Why? Yellowstone National Park, another one of the US's natural wonders, somewhere I would love to visit. They have these insane hot springs, which, once again, people sometimes get a bit too excited about, and but the reason why these pools bubble away at almost 200 degrees is that Yellowstone National Park is essentially one big super volcano that, if it erupted, would probably take out all of human civilization. So I want to be on Wyoming's good side, honestly. The only other thing I know about Wyoming, it was home to Kanye's giant ranch, which is now abandoned, and I assume he took down that Israel flag he was flying in there before, you know. Nature and geography wise, Wyoming is literally insane, so I would love to visit, and I'm thinking C, just because they got less people than Coventry. Like, come on, bro. Montana, it's like Wyoming, just it's double the size, double the amount of people, but I know half the amount of stuff about it. Out here there are more cattle than humans. I was so lost trying to find stuff to talk about regarding Montana that I started searching up their foods, and it came up with this. That's it, bruh. Huckleberries. That's your pride and honor. I appreciate that Montana probably has economic and geographical importance, but I'm struggling for reasons to not stick you guys in E. Not gonna lie. Next up, we got Idaho, which is known for one thing. Potato. Yeah, these guys are the entire country's potato plug, and they are goddamn good at it. Personally, I think potatoes are the S tier carb, so I gotta respect Idaho a lot more than, you know, all the corn and wheat beta states. Believe it or not though, I actually know some more stuff about Idaho than potato. For example, for some reason, Jesse Pinkman owns a house there. Nah, he's actually trying to act like nothing ever happened, bro. And also, this state is actively trying to invade Oregon. Idaho is actually moving like an Eastern European country right now, bruh. They came up with this map of Greater Idaho. Ah, hell nah, man. Dua Lipa moment. Fucking Viktor Orban moment. Essentially, this is just the conservative idea that all the hillbilly parts of Oregon should join onto their hillbilly neighbor so everyone can be hillbillies together. Oh, so now that it's you guys being affected, Americans want to talk about drawing up borders that don't respect ethnic, religious, and social boundaries, huh? It really took you guys some gay people in Portland to figure out that completely straight, square borders aren't a good thing, huh? Also, by that logic, are you Idahoans gonna secede your blue counties to Oregon? You guys ready to create enclaves of Oregon within your paradise? This is like the most Balkan thing I've ever heard. This border dispute is so funny, man. Will it ever happen? No. Will it ever have any importance in the world? No. Does it prove that the unwavering, pioneering spirit of expansionism isn't limited to the western boundary of the US? Yes, yeah, absolutely does. Even if it's fueled by beer and delusion, true manifest destiny is alive and thriving in the state of Idaho. These guys can get a B. On to Washington State, the gem of the West Coast, a land of great contrast. On one hand, you got the best preserved natural landscapes in America. On the other hand, you got the most apocalyptic, depressing, polluted industrial towns known to mankind. However, both produce amazing things though. The Cascades gave American scientists and explorers important findings about the world. Lyndon B. Johnson basically went there and said, yo, I feel way too at peace in these mountains for us to build a Cracker Barrel and a 16-lane highway on top of it. I'm making it a national park. And then, on the other hand, Washington's ugly industrial towns gave us Nirvana, the best band in the history of America ever. More specifically though, it gave us depressed people, and mentally ill people make the best art. It's a fact. Something people from Washington don't make well though is planes. Every single time I look on flight radar and there's a Boeing flying overhead, I shit myself. I can't sleep when I'm on a 747, bruh. I'm calculating the optimal escape plan just in case. And that's gonna be the absolute extent of my Boeing rant, because I actually don't want to be murdered by the CIA. Fun fact, one of Boeing's factories in Seattle is actually the biggest building in the world. Oh wow, it's just just so awe-inspiring, you know? Anyway, I do think Washington is sick. They got like every biome ever, a lot of cultural importance, their fair share of evil American mega companies. They're in the top 5 highest GDP per capita states. Just compared to other states with high GDPs, they actually have greenery and nature and actually kind of functional, efficient, livable cities. So I'm thinking high A, Oregon. Now, Oregon catches so much hate, and some of it is probably justified. I mean, Portland is like the most degenerate city in America, probably just about beating Vegas and Providence. This place is freaky. By far the most strip clubs in the country. They've kind of decriminalized a lot of drugs, but haven't actually tackled the actual causes of drug problems. By far the most naked people per capita in the country. Nude beaches, nude resorts, nude festivals, nude communities, nude bike rides in the center of one of America's largest cities, you name it. They fucking love being naked out here. This kind of culture exists in Oregon as a kind of remnant of the old hippie days. This state was the capital of some really cool hippie shit and some really not cool hippie shit too. On the one hand, you have some of the craziest festivals and communities and movements. Jimi Hendrix played out there, the Stones played out there, typical Oregon shit. But you also have instances like Rajneeshpuram, where an evil Indian businessman posing as a spiritual leader was able to hoax thousands of open-minded white people into giving him all their money, living in his illegal settlement in Oregon, conscripted most of them into his own private army, and almost ordered a Jonestown-esque Kool-Aid solution until the CIA stepped in. I personally think Oregon has some really fascinating vibes, some really fascinating history, and overall is a pretty damn beautiful part of America. Even the biggest hippie haters have to admit you can't really get this kind of view in Iowa, you know? I can see why people who are more inclined to hug trees would choose this state to do so, okay? I'm giving Oregon a B, okay? I don't care, and I think they should defend their land from Idaho like my boy Bhagwan did back in the day. Talking about hippies and businessmen, both can be found in gigantic amounts in our final mainland state. By far the biggest state by population, by far the richest state by GDP, the second biggest mainland state by size. That's right, I saved the biggest for last. It's California, which once again gets a lot of hate, mainly for the state of the big cities San Francisco and Los Angeles, which are both low-key, horribly designed cities. I have a whole video about LA's big problems and how, despite being perceived as a commie, lefty, gay capital by most conservatives, this state is just absolutely incapable of providing anything that would minorly help poor people improve their lives, which, newsflash, would benefit everyone. For example, if instead of adding 12 extra lanes to your fucking highway, you actually built a bus or a train route through town, it means like even if you got $2 in your bank, you can travel freely, which is a human right, by the way. It allows you to do some super basic job, travel to the cheap supermarket, travel to some training or education, travel to your job interviews, build your life up. If you can't move freely, it's a lot harder to actually improve your life. And if you're from Cali and you can't afford a car, you're pretty damn stuck within your neighborhood. If that neighborhood is Skid Row or Compton, your life prospects are probably going to be extremely limited and usually not very legal, which is bad for everyone. I don't want to be poor as fuck having to rob people for a living. I don't want to be well off and get robbed of my hard-earned shit. And I really think the whole car example and the broader, I'll pretend to be better than everyone else because I'm politically at peace with myself because I live in California, not one of those gross hillbilly states, despite my state doing more disgusting shit to oppress and actually kill more poor people whilst rewarding fucking oligarchs more than other states. But Republicans think it's like woke and shit, so I'll happily live here and drink my almond milk, which emits way more carbon and waste and is way more cruel to animals than local dairy products. And that means I'm better than you. I'm talking about you, that sentiment, that's the only thing stopping California from being high S tier. Because honestly, the country would be nothing without California. They provide 1/8 of all American food items, 12% of the most profitable American citizens. They produce almost all of America's films, fashion, music, culture, which has been used to dominate the fucking world in this weird type of American global culture colonialism. The both evil and pure spirit of the pioneers who expanded westward all those years ago is still so integral to this gigantic state. As much as the average Californian would probably dispute this, Manifest Destiny is still the foundation on which most industry is rooted to in this state. Just instead of physically stampeding into foreign land and making it rightfully American, they do it through TV screens instead. If California didn't exist, I probably wouldn't even be making this video right now, since I wouldn't give a fuck about America, because I would have never watched Cloudy and a Chance of Meatballs when I was a kid. Alongside all the other American shit, alongside 90% of the rest of the world, is not just exposed to, but pounded by, pummeled by, pulverized by, literally mentally colonized by from the age of 0. And for that reason, I, with a heavy heart, must announce that California will be getting an S. And that's it for this episode. There will be one more where I review Alaska, Hawaii, and take DC into account as well. And importantly, I'll be doing a final shuffle of all the states. So take a look at it now. I'll give you a second to look at it. Any changes you think desperately need to be made? If so, please comment. I'm going to be reading them all, evaluating everyone's points, making the final amendments. This series has been extremely fun for me to make. I learned new things I never thought I'd know. For example, there's a point on the border of New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado where you could eat a quad state meal deal. I'm thinking chicken club sandwich in Arizona, Max Paprika crisps in Colorado, Diet Coke in Utah, and the little happy hippo you shoplifted in New Mexico. That's the official Geopod meal deal, by the way, guys. But anyway, as I was saying, with great knowledge comes great sacrifice, okay? I've been grinding so hard to get these videos out in a alright time that, on God, my hairline gone back. I'ma have to make a Turkey visit after this series is done, bro. And you might think this is me begging for money so I can go cosmetically transform my face. No, all I'm asking, give this video and the last one in the series maybe a little like, any little interaction with YouTube's interface that minorly boosts this video, I deeply appreciate. And the better this video does, the more cool projects like this I can take the risk on in the future. And yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Next video will be out in like 2 weeks or something. See you then for the final ratings. Peace.